I don't know how I feel about Dear God, because on the one hand, it's just not an interesting film, but there are some really uplifting messages. But I kind of also don't agree with the concept either. And I'll expand on what I mean by that, but there won't be any spoilers just in case you do decide to watch the film. I really don't know if I recommend it or not. This was released in 1996. It's directed by Gary Marshall. It's written by Warren Leight and Ed Kaplan, with a cast including Greg Kinnear, Laurie Metcalf, and various others. And it's about our protagonist, Tom, played by Greg Kinnear. He gets into a bit of trouble with the law and he has to find a job, and he ends up working at the post office sorting out letters, and he ends up sorting out the letters in this place called the Dead Letter Office, which is basically where all of the letters that are undeliverable go, and these are letters that people write to, well, God primarily, and other people, the Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, that kind of thing. And he reads this letter somebody wrote to God, and it's kind of accidentally sent back to that person, financially answering their prayers. I won't say exactly how it happens, but it works well, I guess. It makes sense within the narrative. And from there, it's about answering people's letters and making them feel better, helping them out in their time of need. How can I fault a film that encourages people to do good and think of others and be there for other people when they need somebody? I cannot fault that. But there are a few reasons why I didn't like it. One, I just didn't think it was that interesting. The actual narrative, the specifics that happen, they're just not that fascinating. They're not bad necessarily. I just didn't find it to be an enjoyable film, and it's meant to be a comedy. And I didn't find it funny. The style of humour might appeal to some people more than it did to me. Comedy is very subjective, but I just didn't find it to be very entertaining. The other reason I didn't care for it is that I'm very much against the idea of reading somebody's letter that they wrote to God. That is a very personal thing. That being said, if somebody writes it down on paper and mails it, I don't think anybody genuinely believes that that letter would go to God in terms of physically. And I feel like it's more just the act of delivering the message helps to, I guess, solidify the prayer. You're doing something very physical to make it a bit more concrete. I think putting it down in words is definitely helpful for some people. So yes, you could argue, well, if they're writing it down, there's always the risk that somebody's going to read it. But I also I don't believe it. I don't condone it. I don't think that it's something that should be done. And then responding to those very private prayers, again, are they that private if somebody's willing to mail the prayer? I don't know. It's an argument that I think has value on either side. But personally, if somebody wrote a letter to God and I was in Tom's position, I would not open it. I would not read it. Maybe he's being instructed to as part of his job, fair enough. But I would not do that. I don't condone it. So I don't actually agree with that part of the narrative. But again, if it's leading people to do really great things and helping people in their time of need, can I really complain about it? And this is very much why I don't know how I feel about this, because the film's doing good. I think it's delivering some really positive, helpful messages. But I guess the way in which they're doing that, I personally don't agree with. So I'm kind of confused with how I feel. But all of that aside, I still don't think the narrative is that interesting. I just didn't find it to be certainly very funny. I didn't think the specifics of what happened were that fascinating. But the overarching message, I obviously can't complain about. So this is not the most useful or informative discussion because I just cannot come to a conclusion. So I guess I can say, if you're curious, check it out. If it doesn't sound like your kind of film, I don't think you'd be missing out on a tremendous amount. But if you're curious, maybe you'd like it more than I did. It's not terrible. I don't agree with the concept of opening somebody's letter to God and reading that letter and also responding to it. But at the same time, God works in mysterious ways, and maybe Tom was meant to read the letter, and that's how God is helping the person who wrote the letter, using Tom as a middleman, which is, at least in my belief, not unheard of. Humans are there to help each other, but in my opinion, a lot of that help is driven by what the Lord puts in place. Of course, it comes down to personal beliefs. So I can also see that argument. I'm just contradicting myself constantly, and that's where my thoughts are. I genuinely do not know how I feel about this. So I will sum up by saying check it out if you're curious. I recommend it if it sounds like it could be for you, but it's left me with a lot of questions, which is not a bad thing. A film that makes me think is ultimately a good thing. I didn't enjoy the viewing experience, but it's left me with some thoughts. And if you're curious, give it a watch. I'd be keen to know what you think of it. Maybe you'll enjoy it more than I did.